Mauricio Ruffy is one of the most exciting prospects in the lightweight division, with his creative striking, flair, and that trademark fighting nerd swagger. This weekend he takes on Benoit Denis, who himself is on a 2-fight losing streak that includes back-to-back stoppages. So in today's video, we're going to dive into this fight, see how both fighters match up, one key area in which I think one fighter has a massive advantage over the other, and of course I'm going to end the video with a prediction. Hello guys and welcome back to Alex on MMA. Well, I'm very much glad to be back in a UFC fight week. Enough covering Misfit, sorry about that video before, although I am currently on a three-fight streak myself of predicting the outcome of fights. I did predict the Khamzat Chimaev decision over DDP. I then predicted Aljamain Sterling to get a decision over Brian Ortega, and I predicted an early stoppage of Darren Till against Luke Rockhold. So I'm not saying I'm on a bit of a run myself, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm doing quite well when it comes to my own predictions. And before we dive into this one, please do subscribe to the channel if you're into your UFC MMA content, and comment below, who do you think wins this really intriguing matchup between Mauricio Ruffy and Benoit Denis? And before we take a look at the technical side of things in this fight, I do want to talk about the mindset of each fighter and the pressure they'll be under heading into this fight. Starting with Mauricio Ruffy, I think it's fairly straightforward. Naturally, there's going to be a bit of pressure on him now after the spectacular knockout against King Green. There's a lot more hype coming behind his name. Big things are expected of him. But when you see him in the octagon, this just doesn't seem like a guy who feels the pressure. He's so relaxed in there. When you actually realise how relaxed he is in there, it's such a superpower to have in MMA. And we cannot underestimate how valuable it is being that comfortable, that relaxed in the octagon. So when we're talking about the pressure and the mindset of Mauricio Ruffy heading into this one, I think he'll just see it as another fight, another stepping stone, getting him closer to that UFC title. Now, Benoit Denis, this is really the other end of the spectrum, because Benoit Denis will have the weight of the world on his shoulders for this fight. Not only is he on a 2-fight losing streak against a veteran Dustin Poirier, getting stopped there and then just getting absolutely obliterated, taken down and ground and pound, a 10-8 round against Renato Moicano. That was such a bad loss last time out, and he cannot afford to lose 3 back-to-back fights in the UFC. That would be absolutely disastrous. And then that's not it. It goes even further. This fight is at UFC Paris. It's in Benoit Denis' hometown, so there'll be even more pressure there. So when you look at polar opposites heading into this fight, Mauricio Ruffy, clearly a very confident, relaxed fighter, and then Benoit Denis, he fights in quite a tense manner anyway, and I think it's only going to up the ante when he's fighting in front of his home crowd off the back of 2 back-to-back losses. So with that being said, let's dive into the fight itself. And this fight definitely represents a step up for Mauricio Ruffy. His win last time against King Green was a very good win, an amazing stoppage, but at the same time, King Green, he's always been quite one-dimensional, very good, very slick boxing, but he doesn't really threaten that much more than that. Whereas Benoit Denis, he has had success in the past mixing up his striking and grappling, and if we take a look at this clip between Benoit Denis and Dustin Poirier in the very first round, I can expect a very similar game plan for Benoit Denis here. And as you can see, he opens up from that southpaw stance with a nice left hand straight down the middle, which does catch Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier goes for more of a looping hook. And of course, as always, the straight shot will get there first. But before he even brings his hand back to his chin, he's level changed, gets in on a single leg. Let's keep it playing forward. Gets his other hand round there, going for a double leg against the fence. And this is exactly the kind of strategy I expect from Benoit Denis, particularly early on when both fighters are dry. And we're not going to play the whole clip here, but he does end up finishing that takedown. And this is something that Mauricio Ruffy's not really seen in his UFC career so far. A fighter really prepared to mix up the wrestling and the striking. And I'm expecting Benoit Denis to do that here. Ruffy, he's an out-and-out striker, isn't he? I know we saw that amazing trip that he did in a previous fight. But really, Benoit Denis will recognise that Ruffy stands tall. His chin fairly high quite a lot of the time. But I think that's more a testament to his amazing movement. But Benoit Denis will realise that. There's a lot of leg for him to hold on to of Mauricio Ruffy. I can see him trying aggressive straight punches, trying to back Ruffy against the fence, and then work the takedowns from there. We've not really seen Ruffy tested with his ground game and things like that in the UFC so far. So I'm sure that Benoit Denis, even if it's just to test the waters early on, see what Ruffy does in terms of his own reactions when his back's against the fence, even if he's taken to the ground. I think a strong start in this fight is really important for BSD. So he'll definitely be looking to involve the grappling tackling early on. On the other hand, this strategy from BSD, where he is trying to back his opponent up in a straight line in striking range, can leave him to becoming unstuck, as we saw later on in the fight against Dustin Poirier. Because whilst things are going your way and your opponent is moving backwards, not really throwing anything, like we saw before, Poirier went for a wide hook and Saint-Denis was able to land on his chin straight through the middle. When Benoit Saint-Denis does just march forward, he presents such a static target. And this was towards the end of the fight against Dustin Poirier. You can see that Benoit Saint-Denis just stood there, tries to put a hand on Dustin Poirier's chest there, and Poirier lands a beautiful digging shot to the rib. Benoit Saint-Denis, a nice left kick under the rib. Let's keep it playing forward a little bit. There we go. A solid jab by Poirier. Again, Benoit Saint-Denis' hands completely down. And Dustin Poirier is a very good boxer. It just made no sense. He just fell apart at the end of this fight. And as you can see there, Dustin Poirier cracks him with that left hook, which really was the beginning of the end in this fight. So whilst it's all well and good when you've got the momentum going your way, forcing your opponent back against the fence, striking to get the hands up, then changing your level and getting a takedown, if your opponent is refusing to play your game and just throwing shots back, Benoit Saint-Denis is very hittable here. And that takes us perfectly to talking about his opponent this weekend, Mauricio Ruffy. As when it comes to movement and finding the target, he's one of the very best in the lightweight division currently. And there's three areas of movement that I really want to zone in on when we're talking about what makes Ruffy such a creative, such a dangerous striker. And the three things are the distance management, moving forwards and moving backwards. And it's his distance management, which I think will give him a huge advantage in this fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. As we saw against King Green, again, two very different fighters, both in the southpaw stance, though, might be quite important to note. When King Green throws that left hand, you can see the inches, the millimeters, whatever it is, of Ruffy just gauging his range. One thing that really helps him is that Ruffy's fairly light on his feet. He looks quite flat-footed when he's in there because he's not on the balls of his feet, but he's very fast at moving in and out of range. And as you can see, that shot by King Green misses, not by much, but Ruffy's able just to get out of the way enough. But then, as you can see, when they reset, he's there. And if he'd wanted to throw another strike, that would have been on there. Now we're going to talk about Mauricio Ruffy moving forward. And for someone who might just think he's a counter fighter and things like that, I actually think that when Ruffy moves forward, it's one of his best assets. As you can see, that shot by King Green missed just by inches. And Ruffy was able to slide out of the way and then really quickly reset and able to fire off some shots of his own. And as we're about to see here in the finish against King Green, any excuse to bring up this spinning wheel kick again, but he's really good at keeping King Green, keeping his opponents pinned against the fence, and so much of this is to do with his footwork. Throughout this fight, Ruffy had been landing leg kicks on King Green, little jabs upstairs, just making sure that King Green is stationed right in front of him. He doesn't want King Green finding these angles where he's really dangerous. Bobby Green's always been good at pivoting off to the side and throwing shots up through the middle. But here, Mauricio Ruffy just did not allow that to happen. Instead, he was able to pin King Green against the fence, knew exactly where he was right in front of him. And this is just beautiful. Throws that fake left hook, which gives his body and his hips all the momentum to keep on moving around. This is just a thing of beauty, isn't it? And clips King Green on the top of the head with that shot. And just absolutely ices him. And it was one of the best spinning wheel kicks we've seen in UFC history. And is this something that we could see in the fight this weekend? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever seen back-to-back spinning wheel kick knockouts. And there's a couple of reasons why I don't think that's going to happen this time round. But really, when it comes to movement, Benoit Saint-Denis presents himself as such a static target. And we know that Ruffy's very good moving forward, keeping you within his range. And then on top of that, he's so creative when it comes to the striking that you're not sure which angle things are going to come from. And that's what makes him so dangerous against Benoit Saint-Denis. Because if Benoit Saint-Denis has a fairly routine, orthodox game plan, marching forward, a couple of straight shots upstairs, then going for a takedown against the fence, I just think Ruffy's going to be one step ahead every single round. So we've spoken about Ruffy's range management and his ability to cut off the octagon to force you on your back foot. However, the guy's equally just as good when he's fighting off his own back foot, which makes him so dangerous. Sorry about that brief interruption. Someone came to the door and I had to do a bit of a costume change. I was getting a bit hot. But anyway, to summarise about Mauricio Ruffy's movement, moving forward, he's so effective. because he always gets his foot on the outside. He'll cut off the octagons, have you right in front of him, right where he wants you, as we saw with that King Green, Bobby Green spinning wheel kick. And when it comes to finding his range, he's able to back off just so that your shot misses by an inch, by a few millimeters, but then he keeps himself in shape, ready to fire back. That's so effective because we see it a lot, fighters retreating to avoid big shots, but then they have to set themselves once again and start moving forward. But Mauricio Ruffy's ability to move out of range, staying in fighting position, and able to fire something back with his long levers, that makes him so effective, especially against what I'm expecting to be a fairly stationary target in Benoit Saint-Denis. And to pile on the miseries of Benoit Saint-Denis, I've got a clip of Mauricio Ruffy fighting on the back foot now. There is a clip of a check hook. I'll throw it in there if I don't get done by UFC copyright laws. But as you can see here, King Green, and I think it makes sense to look at this fight a lot because it was his last performance against the best fighter that he'd fought up until this point. You can see that Ruffy stays there, hands down, looking so relaxed, which is just, like I said at the start of this video, cannot be underestimated. You see the shots coming so much clearer. And as you can see here, Bobby Green launches a left hand. Mauricio Ruffy slips out of the way. Again, he's there. He's in range. Look at his feet. Look at his whole position there. His whole body position there. You could expect a check left hook or something like that here. But instead, he just lifts up that hand, gives a little jab in the face, just a stopping punch as Bobby Green's advancing, just stopping him there in his tracks. And that shot was off the back foot. You can see all the weight's on this foot currently because he's just sliding out the way. And when you're expecting Benoit Saint-Denis to be a fighter who's going to try and push forward, mix up the takedowns and the striking, then this ability to stay in your stance, back off and just pop that jab in his face, I just think this looks more and more like a really, really tough matchup for Benoit Saint-Denis. So moving on to how I think this fight's going to go and the final prediction. And really, as you can probably tell, I am leaning towards Mauricio Ruffy. Now, I'm in danger of my 3-fight correct predictions coming to an end here. I'm starting to feel the pressure a bit myself, but I am leaning towards a Mauricio Ruffy decision. I do think that the spinning wheel kicks and things like that, they could all play a part in this fight. The very creative striking is going to be on display. But I also rate the toughness of Benoit Saint-Denis. When you look at the Dustin Poirier finish, that was a real accumulation. Dustin Poirier is very heavy-handed. Here, I think that Mauricio Ruffy's going to pick him apart. I can see him getting taken down early on and having to deal with a bit of early adversity because Benoit Saint-Denis' strategy is clearly going to rely on him having some early success. And when you think about the takedown as a strategy, the more dry that Ruffy is at the start of this fight, the more likely BSD is going to have some success holding him down, looking for a submission or some solid ground and pound on top. So I can see BSD coming out quite fast, a lot of nervous energy there. And as long as Ruffy just gets into his relaxed flow state, I can see him just picking apart BSD. Don't get me wrong, BSD is a very good fighter. He'll be moving forward. He'll be strong. I'm sure he'll land on Ruffy. But I think it's going to be a bit of a point scoring opportunity this for Ruffy to really demonstrate the wide array of techniques that he does have. And I personally can't wait to see it. So I'm putting down Mauricio Ruffy decision, either 29-28 or 30-27. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Sorry about that brief interruption in the middle. Let me know in the comments below who you think wins this one. I'm also going to be doing a video on the main event, Caio Borralho against Nassourdine Imavov. So if you've not already, please do subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video.